Hello, 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 damas y caballeros. Welcome back to From Across the Pond. We're in 2022 now, and we're here to preview the upcoming MLS season. So today I've got Niko Moreno with me, a reporter who's plugged into all things Seattle, and especially the Seattle Sounders. So we're here to talk about that today. So Niko, te doy la bienvenida al canal. And how are you, man?
Gracias por invitarme. It's a pleasure, hopping on, and I appreciate you reaching out. Always happy to, come along and help out other colleagues and just continue to provide content, not just from Seattle, but from around the league. So just happy to be here.
Thank you. So first of all, the season ended for the Sounders in an abrupt and shocking fashion against RSL. Yet the Sounders decided to bring back the majority of the playing squad from last season, the key impactful players at least anyway. So why do you think the front office chose for a process of continuity as opposed to a spring cleaning?
I mean, there's a lot of components. I mean, first of all, this was a very good team throughout the regular season. As a matter of fact, it had the best start in franchise history. They were nearly unbeatable, and they did that with a lot of absences, a ton of injuries that went from your anchor and goal, which is Stephen Fry. You had to put in a kid like Stephen Cleveland. Nicolas Odero was also unavailable. There were so many things that this team had to go through, losing Gonzalo Pineda, losing Jimmy Traore. I mean, there were so many components that were in and out of this team that the fact they ended with the record that they did was telling of not just the roster and the talent, but how the concepts that were built throughout the last couple of seasons have finally blossomed, and it was executed in the best possible way. So when you have a group that understands the style of play, they have the identity, they have a chemistry, you want to keep that together. So that's one component. The second component is really the offseason was very short. This team not only has to get ready for MLS play, but they have CONCACAF Champions League. Going back to the importance of continuity and having a team that is ready to play and can pick up where they left off a lot easier. You do that by keeping the same team together. So that's another component of it. The fact that it's going to be a short season and there's going to be quite a few tournaments, including Leagues Cup, that you're going to have to prepare for. So the fact of having a veteran group, a team that knows what they're going to do and they understand what the coach wants them to do, it just helps out. And finally, you saw throughout last season how many young players you were able to fit in, from Danny Leyva to Doubler, Vargas Obed. I mean,
Atencio as well.
Atencio, absolutely. So you had all these kids that you were able to play that you also want to continue developing those players. And to do that, you also have to have a group that, one, you know that they're going to be good leaders to these kids, and you have plenty of those in Raul Ruidiaz, in Freddie Montero, in Yamar Gomez Andrade. These are guys that don't mind spending the time with the young guys. So with all that said, I think that the organization understood that they had a quality roster, that they didn't make that final push because of injuries. And, Brian Smetzer talked about perhaps becoming a little bit predictable at the end. So regardless of that result and maybe not getting to that MLS Cup as they wanted to, you knew that you had a good foundation and you wanted to keep that intact.
Lovely. Yeah, I agree. I think the continuity is going to help them, especially in the short term with the obviously CCL starting before the season. But so on top of that, they've now added Albert Rusnak in the biggest free agent signing this offseason. So he had 11 goals and 11 assists last season with a RSL side that was less expansive than this Seattle side. So what do you think he's going to offer to the Sounders? But also, what do you think it means in general for the league? Because it's the first time we've kind of seen a key player from one side move to another and a top team in MLS in free agency. So do you think free agency is now going to become a much more important component in the building of sides and rosters, like it is in the NBA and the NFL?
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason of that is because Seattle's advantage upon the league has been their front office and the ability to maximize resources. When you have a salary cap space, you need to maximize your resources, from homegrown player contracts to veteran contracts to using your GAM, your TAM. So bringing in a guy like Rusnak in the form that they did, yes, he's a DP, but they were able to bring down Joe Paulo and redo his contract. Now he's going to be here till 2024, and those details haven't been provided, but you know that he's no longer going to be a DP because the transfer fee is gone. So bringing in Albert Rusnak in the format that they did using free agency allowed him to get a DP caliber without a transfer fee, the ability to move the salary throughout the team and have a plan for the future because they don't have that big lump of money coming from a transfer fee, right? So because of that, it's a huge move. It's a fantastic move done in free agency. So I do believe that teams will continue to replicate this because, you know, it can be a copycat league at times when it comes to certain things. And this is something that I think they'll replicate because Seattle right now has DP caliber player in Joe Paulo, who's an MLS MVP finalist. They have your three DPs in Lodero, who needs no further explanation of who he is and what he's done for this team. Raul Diaz, who's your golden boot, your go-to guy, now your most expensive player, you know, getting $3-something million of salary, and well-deserved because of the productivity he's given you. And you get Rusnak, who is a proven veteran coming from a good season with Real Salt Lake, double-digit assists, double-digit goals, can play out wide, can play centrally. And you have Leo Chu, who's your young DP, who has all the promise in the world. He's a prospect. He's going to be able to, if you get him to that ceiling, now you got a whole other great player coming in. So the use of those resources is why Seattle's so good and why I think free agency will become more of a tool for teams to get better.
Yeah, agreed. And talking about all those attacking components and talents that they have in the squad, so they've got an abundance of them. How do you see them fitting into a system? So last season, Brian Smetcher, well, before last season, he kind of favored a 4-2-3-1. Last season, with the injuries and everything, he went to the three at the back. So it's kind of a 3-4-2-1 or kind of formation. So do you see bringing Rusnak in affecting that, or do you think he's going to stay with that or go back to the 4-2-3-1? What do you think?
Man, that's a great question. And honestly, is the $1 million question that even Brian, going into the end of the season press conference, he didn't really have an answer for it, right? Because you played so well with the variations of a three-man backline, whether, you know, it was a 3-5-2 or whatever combination they used last year. Sometimes they play with only one forward. I mean, there were certain things that they did, but the three-man backline worked. Something that I have to admit, before the season started, I thought it was going to be a failure, and it really bit me in the butt. Brian Gonzalo Pineda, who was a big part of why the formation was changed and why it was done the way that it did. So it worked, right? So they say if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? But you have to understand that you have players that you didn't have last season that are top players like Jordan Morris, and he doesn't quite fit under this system. You could put him as a second striker, but you have seen the best Jordan Morris as a winger, playing in the flanks, playing on the left side, being able to cut inside and become also a goal scorer, but also spread out teams and stretch those backlines with his speed, his ability to take on players. So because of that, I really have no answer, but if I was a betting man, I think that they would go back to the 4-2-3-1 because it provides Jordan Morris a more somewhere where he could adapt easier. I mean, there's somewhere where he's played, somewhere where he's shine. So you do want to get those players in the best positions to shine, right? So because of that, he fits in better there. Leo choose a player that never really quite fit under this three-man backline, and that's the reason why he didn't get a lot of minutes. And fans wanted to see their new young DP, and everybody wanted to see this Brazilian with nifty footwork, exciting guy come in and play, and they couldn't do it because of that formation. Rusnak is someone that is very versatile in the midfield, and he's going to be a partner to all of these players that we just mentioned. A lot of people tend to think that he is the substitute to Nicolas Odero, and that's not the case, right? I mean, you definitely getting a guy that can eventually be his replacement when Nicolas Odero decides to step away from Seattle or step away from the game. But right at this moment, the organization, Brian Smetzer, Garth Lagerwey, they're all thinking about playing these guys together. So because of that, I think that playing Nicolas Odero, who's obviously a little bit older, who is coming from some knee injuries, you want to limit his minutes, you want to limit how much space he's covering. So putting him at the 10 in the 4-2-3-1 gives you the best opportunity to be able to cash in on his quality in front of goal, his quality to distribute and put through balls, and you take away a little bit of the defending because you got two holding mids in Christian Roldan and Joe Paulo covering all this space and being able to distribute from the back. So it keeps him closer to the final third, and he gives him more freedom just in one part of the field instead of having to cover so much ground as he would on a three-man backline. Because if you're playing with wing backs, you know those three midfielders have a lot of room to cover and a lot of work that they have to do. So because of that, I think that Seattle will go back to a 4-2-3-1.
Okay. No, that abundance of talent that you're talking about, that's why you recommended the gift that you sent to me. That's why, isn't it? You know, the muscular Seattle just becoming stronger and stronger in the face of the other teams, right?
Absolutely. I mean, that is what it is, right? I mean, it's either, you know, Bugs Bunny with getting the secret sauce, the secret water, Michael Jordan and just getting all big, or, you know, Goku going from regular to Super Saiyan, because I feel like that's what this roster is doing. And not just because of Albert Rusnak, who once again, I think he gives you an edge you didn't have last year, but also getting guys back. Getting Niko back, getting Jordan Morris back, who was out for most of the season. And it's hard to comprehend how this team did so well with so many great elements. So all you can do right now is say, oh my goodness, this team's going to be even better, because they're getting all those quality guys back, but they're also getting a guy like Rusnak. So yeah, it's just something that I haven't seen. This could be, or I'm going to go ahead and say, this is the best team, the best roster, and the most cohesive unit I have seen in Seattle since I started covering the team.
Yeah, because like you talking about the injuries last year with Jordan Morris, I look at it, going into the season, I was one of those that kind of wrote them off or thought that they'd be, you know, further down the standings. I thought they'd obviously be a playoff team again, but I thought the regular season they'd, you know, Schmetzer would be trying some things, giving young players minutes like he did, so that they'd finish like 4th or 5th. But like you say, it was incredible how they finished 2nd and quite comfortably, and then we know what happened. But with the CCL around the corner, like we mentioned before, how it's comes in before the MLS season, quite often the MLS teams are undercooked compared to the Mexican sides, who are already a couple of jornadas into their season. So with some of the Seattle players like Nuhu have been playing international competition instead of just resting or starting up in preseason again, do you think that's a benefit alongside the continuity that the roster has that will allow Seattle to go into the CCL and be successful or advance at least?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of the guys that you have right now that either are coming back from international duty or are still in international duty, is going to just help those specific players have a quicker start. They're already ready to go. I can tell you, not just Nuhu, who has played constantly and well for Cameroon, but a guy like Guillermo Gomez Andrade, who was second in the voting for MLS Defender of the Year, and now he has gotten continuous call-ups from Colombia. He just started for the very first time in his career for Colombia, played a very good game against Honduras, very involved in the build out of the back, displayed his speed, his physicality. They were working in Barranquilla, which is a very hot, humid place. Then they went to Miami, where they also trained. So he is coming in game rhythm. He's coming in physically fit and already fighting with the elements that you might see in CCL contention, right? Same goes for Javier Arriaga, who was part of a training camp that was played out in Ecuador, called by Gustavo Alfaro. Obviously, you got Christian Roldan, Alex Roldan, and Jordan Morris with their team. So all of these guys are already going to come into this training camp game fit, game ready, and that just gives you an edge completely, because those are a lot of guys and a lot of key components to your starting formation.
Yeah, no, I've been to Barranquilla actually, as it happens, and it is sweltering over there for sure. For sure, it's hot.
It's hot.
Yeah. So with some of the senior players missing the initial stage of the camp, though, the preseason camp, do you some youngsters are going to get opportunities? So do you see any like players that might break out this season? Some of the draft picks, like the Dylan Tevez, I know, was just picked up in the Super Draft, or the young player I've seen, Obede Vargas, is training with the team. So do you think someone like that's going to be able to break through this season, or are you looking for more of the players that got their break last year to have a push on in their sophomore season?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with that second option, with those guys that are still young, and I'm going to give you a name, but they're still young, that are coming from their best season, and that I think will be even better this year, and are going to be a cornerstone of what the potential success of this team will be in 2022. And I'll explain why. The guy I'm thinking of is Alex Roldan. He is a player that's coming from an MLS All-Star season. He just got his contract for a 3-year guarantee with an option for 2025. He's become and gained a huge role for El Salvador, which I think gives them a different level of understanding the game, understanding leadership. He's playing more as an attacking player in El Salvador, more as a midfielder. So whether he's playing at right back or left wing back or potentially in the midfield, he is someone who I think who is ready to explode, who I think is going to have an even better season than last year, which is crazy to think because he's coming from such a good season. Yeah. The only reason why I don't believe that we'll see that breakout younger player is because I don't know how much minutes they're going to get. If there's an injury and you got to bring in a guy like Atencio, as you did last year, then yes, you got Atencio, you got Danny Leyva, who's someone who I'm very high on because of his vision, his tactics, his field awareness, and what he can provide. But if the team is healthy, you're going to go with your senior roster. You don't want your younger players playing at Motagua with some experienced players that are very physical in a probably difficult field, regardless of them being no fans. The field in general is kind of tough in Honduras, right? So you don't want to play those players then. So in domestic play as well, I think that there is a lot of senior depth, like Freddie Montero, like Will Bruin. So because of that, I don't know if we're going to see many of those younger players getting a lot of minutes. And the other part of that is with MLS Next Pro, maybe the Tevezes of the world, and maybe even guys like Leyva and Atencio and Vargas, they might be playing a lot of those minutes. It's very we're very unsure of how that's going to work, or at least I am. And everybody who I've talked to, I don't know if it's quite set in stone how that is going to work. But my thought process leads me to believe that they're going to be playing some minutes at least in that part of the league, right? So that's why I don't really see a player that I can be like, yep, this guy's going to come in, have significant minutes, and become a breakout player, because I just don't see it.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. And then, like we were mentioning earlier about Raul Ruiz, moving on to the most important player for Seattle this year to, get to where they want to be. Do you see it being someone like Raul Ruiz, who's got the new deal that he wanted in the offseason, so he's now committed to Seattle for the long term? Do you see it as Jordan Morris, who's obviously coming back at the last part of last season, being, having time to get his body right and now a full season ahead of him? Nicolas Ladero, if he stays injury-free. Who do you think is going to be that most important player for Seattle this season?
Ooh, that's tough, man, because if Nico's healthy, man, he amplifies your game completely. He is the NOS in your car. He's the one that you hit that button and he's going to boost because he makes everybody else better around him, right? And he gives you that quality, that mid-range shot, those set pieces. He puts a lot of things together that maybe you don't have with him. But I think Raul Ruiz is very focused on the team. I don't know if you know this, but he wasn't called for the national team because he didn't quite want to do that right now. He wanted to focus on, getting healthy, being ready for the team. So I think him being so committed to the franchise, I think last year, had he not gone to international play, he would have been the league's golden boot. He was right there, and he could have made that if he had not gone to playing with Peru and then also getting hurt. So I think that this year, he's had his eye on that golden boot since he arrived in Seattle. He's wanted it. So because of that, I think that Raul Ruiz is going to be the player to watch next season. And he will probably score 18, 19, 20 goals with this type of supporting cast. With this supporting cast, man, I mean, sky's the limit. You have to make sure that every one of those players who you just mentioned is probably going to have a much better season than last year. And that puts Raul at about 20 goals, man. So I think he's going to be your guy.
No, yeah, I was going to ask you how many goals you thought he was going to get, but he also has the point to prove. Like you said, he deferred the call-up this time for the national team, but he's never quite performed to the standard that he performs with the Sounders with the national team. So he's kind of, if he comes off, he concentrates on the season, obviously with the World Cup at the end of the year, he's going to be no doubt there in the form to make a difference for Peru, hopefully as well. So now we're getting on to the prediction stage. So what do you see for Seattle this year? Do you think that they could be, talking about CCL first, do you think they could be the first MLS side to win this iteration of the CCL? Because obviously there's some strong Mexican teams, Cruz Azul, Pumas, but there's no America, there's no Regiomontano side, there's no Tigres, no Monterrey. The three sides that have kind of dominated CCL in the last few years. So do you think this is the year for Seattle, especially an MLS side, to win?
Look, man, I'm going to go ahead and roll the dice here. And because I haven't seen a group put together this way, I'm going to say that, yes, I think that Seattle, I'll sign it right now that they'll go to the final of CCL. Can they win it? I think they can. So I'm going to go ahead and add that up. Seattle, I think this is their year to win CCL, and I'll roll the dice with these guys, man. I think that they'll be able to put it together, man. And if Rusnak can come in and fit in to this locker room in the right positive way, and all these talents put together, and this defense that is as good as it is, with Nuhu, with Yeimar, with Javier Arriaga, with Alex Roldan, man, they're going to win CCL, and I'll sign it right now.
I think I agree with you, because obviously I think personally the strongest Mexican team in the competition this year is Cruz Azul, who came off their championship win last season, but they've lost Romo to Monterrey. They lost Jonathan Rodriguez, who nearly went to LFC, but he went to Al Nassr, I think it was. So I think, Seattle are in a great place to win CCL. What about challenging on other fronts then, the MLS? Are we going to see, obviously they've won a lot of championships in recent years in the MLS. Do you think they can go there again? Maybe if they're concentrating on CCL, maybe a regular season where they do finish third or fourth, but they have the power and then the playoffs to go and win. Do you think they could do that?
Yeah, man, look, I've said it to more than one person already, so I'm going to say it to you. I think that this is the year where they won two cups in 1 year, and I think it's going to be CCL and it's going to be MLS Cup. They might struggle in the regular season because I do see this team putting all their eggs in the CCL basket. Got Lagerwey, who to me, is the best GM in MLS. Since the moment he got here, he set himself a set of objectives, and he's reached just about every single one of the objectives except for International Cup. They got close last year in Leagues Cup, where we went very excited to Las Vegas, and it was great being there with the team and all this hope, and they ended up coming up short. I think that this year, that's Gard Lagerwey's objective. He's going to want to get the international play, and that's why they're going to focus on that specific tournament.
Okay, nice. I think it's definitely possible. Well, we got the video title there. So I just want to say thank you to you, Niko, for coming on. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I hope we can catch up soon where these predictions have come right at the end of the season.
That's right, man. That's why we play the game, right? We're gonna go ahead and put my name on all those potential situations, and hopefully they come through. But thank you for having me, man. I'm more than happy to be here with you. Great questions, by the way. And we'll see what happens in the future. And feel free to call me, contact me at any time. Always happy to hop on.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.